everyone, this is Tosada Fujinami here, aka Tosada Senpai. Finally back after taking Friday night off from the podcast just because I was in a hotel around the Boston area for PAX East this past weekend. Again, PAX East, if you're not familiar with it, again, PAX Penny Arcade Expo basically, so if you're familiar with Penny Arcade Expo, this is the East Coast version in Boston. The PAX West or PAX Prime is usually in Seattle, so that was the main one, but Boston always has their PAX East out in the East Coast because, again, you have one on the West Coast, you should have one on the East Coast for the East Coast people because we can't all travel to Seattle every year. So I was there for the past weekend, and yeah, it was kind of an interesting weekend. I would say this, I've been going to PAX on and off for the last 10 plus years now, and I remember the days when I was at PAX and I would see long lines or lots of booth space for Nintendo or for some other bigger name companies. Like I know E3 was in LA when they used to have E3, but having PAX East was kind of nice because then at least I didn't have to go so far to LA to go. I've gone to E3 as well in the past when it was a big thing, but going to PAX East, it definitely felt even more different than it used to be even when I went the year before. This year, the video games are still there, but there's a lot more indie developers there, a lot more focus on smaller developers where some of the games were released. They had some big boosts for like games that have been released, like Section 13 or Goblin Town, these are smaller indie games, but they have big boosts for them. The thing, though, is that these games were already released, already in early access, so they weren't in the section where the games were still like in development and they were still haven't done anything much. Like I see this whole section where they have this small, tiny scrunch up booth space for some of these indie developers. And for those indie developers, and sorry, I have a runny nose tonight. For some of these indie developers, it was kind of nice to see the games they're developing. Some of them were very nice for the whole gamut, like Metrovania, party games, some RPG shooters. And there were a bunch of them. I don't know if I was as interested in these games as I was with some of the games from last year. And that's kind of the thing I've noticed, that a lot of the bigger games that could be out there, some of them were there, like Elden Ring, the new DLC. They had that. Night Rain, I believe, had a booth and some playable there. They had a new, bigger game called Crimson Desert, which is supposed to be a bigger game. Marvelous is out there, so you saw Rune Factory, the new next Rune Factory, the next story seasons have demos out there at PAX East this year. Atari had a booth there. You had some of the big names were there too. Pokemon had the actually, let me go back. In terms of video games, like I said, these were some of the bigger ones, but to be honest, it's gotten less focused on video games. And I noticed there's a bigger influx of trading cards. Like Pokemon had a huge station this year for the trading card game. Universes had a big station out there. Marvel Dice Thrones was big there, and Flesh and Blood had a bigger booth. And then the board games were big out there too. You had some big booths for Gloomhaven, Frosthaven. You had some booths like for Fire Tower, or even some for like Drinks with Frenemies had 2 booths actually I saw out there. So I'm starting to think now PAX East has become less and less about video games and more about other games in general, like board games and trading card games. And I know that PAX created something called PAX Unplugged, meant for board games and trading card games. And I don't know, to be honest, if PAX East is going to be turning into like a more mini version of PAX Unplugged now. Like the whole video game concept is kind of not as big anymore, to be honest, with PAX East. I've noticed, like even the spacing, like a lot of the hall spaces, and there's a lot more empty space now in the exhibition center, the expo hall, and that's kind of concerning to me, only because the other problem too with video games, is that a lot of the developers have decided they can just release their games with demos online, do a Twitter post or a Blue Sky post to say like, hey, our game's having a demo or a beta test or release coming soon. So you can just buy it here. People will know about it more often because, again, waiting for a convention to happen, you may not get that exposure. It's different with trading cards and with board games because the board games, unfortunately, aren't as fun to play digitally as they are in person. In trading card games, you have these apps like MTG Online or like Pokemon tried to do this or Kana tried to do this, but the digital card games aren't as successful. So that's why the board games and trading card games need to be in person, while the video games, do they really have to be in person? Unless you're an indie developer, but even then, it's kind of by word of mouth at times. So, yeah, I do enjoy going to PAX East. I'll say that. However, I do think that I'm starting to see a little bit of weakness in PAX East. So next year they're going to have it during March 24th through the 26th. I may actually have other plans that next year during that time, so we'll see. I don't anticipate going to PAX East next year, not because I don't want to, just because I have other plans. But we'll see what happens. Again, that's my quick spiel about PAX East. I thought it was a fun experience. I got to learn about two new board games, which they came out last year, but I finally saw how good they were. It was Good Knack and React were two big good board games, and I played some Magic the Gathering and Lorcana while I was out there. In terms of the video games, I didn't really do much because, quite honestly, not that much. Like, I'll say this, because there weren't that many big publishers out there now. Even the smaller games got lines that took hours. So why am I gonna wait in line for games that aren't? Who knows if they're gonna have that much traction, and yet their lines are longer than, let's say, if a AAA studio came out with a game soon. So whatever, it's fine. But yeah, that's my thoughts about PAX East. And again, I just want to talk about that a little briefly. The next thing I want to talk about is the news I heard about the tariff situation. How there's an agreement that they're going to try to do. They're going to pull back the 145% tariff on China, and China's going to do the same thing, pull off the reciprocal tariffs for 90 days. And that made everyone so excited that for 90 days we won't see this happening. Here's the thing. It's 90 days, people. Sure, there's some excitement. I also felt like, hey, this is decent. But here's the thing. You gotta ask the question. Who, what, when, where, why, and how? The what is, China and the US have decided to pull back the tariffs for 90 days. Now, that's the what. In a vacuum, that sounds great, so that you don't have to worry about prices going up. And maybe Nintendo cannot worry about getting their consoles jacked up in price. Apple doesn't worry about the iPhone getting scaled up in price, because forget about the whole about smartphone tariffs. We don't know, again, if that's going to come back, so it doesn't matter. Here's the thing. You're dealing with a doofus. Do I think this doofus is not going to pull some shenanigans where the U.S. is still going to suffer? Hell no. It's not that I think politicians are corrupt, because all politicians are not going to be great to a point, but this is the doofus. All he cares about is his money, is his bottom line. He's going to find a way to make money off of this. So you don't think he's going to try to make sure in 90 days he's going to make a deal where, sure, it may be a little bit okay for the American public, but at the end of the day, it's going to make the American public suffer, and the money's going to go to him directly anyway. And do you think China's just going to do this and keel towards every demand? No, China's not that stupid. They're going to find ways to get everything they want from this deal too. So you think the doofus has won the day just because the tariffs are on hold for 90 days? No, In 90 days, we're going to have to fight this battle all over again. We're going to fight the anxiety all over again. It's not going to end. Here's the thing. Who started all this? The doofus. He could have just went to China, or let his cabinet say, like, hey, China, we need a better deal. We need to fix this, or we're going to do this. You don't just do something and all of a sudden, oh, sorry, we didn't mean it. We're just going to come back in 90 days. We'll try to work this out. As everyone says, that shows weakness. Strength is knowing how to use your power smartly, not throwing it around like a bully. That's called weakness. So this doofus thinks he's going to be able to frickin' not use this tariff now? He thinks it's going to be okay to say, like, hey, this is not going to affect anything for 90 days and then we'll come back later? You think he's going to make a deal happen. If he makes a deal, it's not going to be all good for us, to be honest. I don't put anything through past this doofus. And here's the thing. You think Nintendo and all these people, again, this is for Nintendo, for the Switch 2. Earlier, Nintendo raised the prices of the accessories. Those aren't going down. If you think that because this news that the tariffs are being put on hold for 90 days, Nintendo is not going to lower the price. And here's why. Because that 10% is still there. That's one thing. Those accessory prices were, to be honest, they were almost similar to the Switch 1 prices, which means there was nothing put in for tariffs yet because they thought they could figure out a way to deal with that. Now the 10%, they had to add those on because those are going to be protectionist for the tariffs that are still there. So now, here's the next thing. At some point, we're going to see this happen again and again and again and again throughout the rest of the term of this doofus's reign. So Nintendo's going to have to figure out a way to protect itself regardless of what happens. They're not going to wait until something happens. So just because now that this is a reprieve for the time being, these companies are going to use it in their favor to figure out how to raise prices in a way that will protect them so that when the tariffs come back, which they will come back, no, don't deny that, they will come back, Nintendo will be better prepared for this. However, this does not change everything else for everyone around the country. The 10% is still there. The 10% is still impacting people as of we speak right now because that will still raise prices. Tariffs of 10% means that people that are trying to make money aren't just going to raise 10%. They can raise their prices 20, 25% because they still need to make that profit back. Because they want to be protectionist. So don't think this reprieve means that you won't see prices still rise. They can still rise because now people are going to protect themselves because they know this doofus is unreliable. He's a doofus for a reason. So again, if you think this is good news about the tariffs, it's not. It's in the vacuum it is. In reality, it's not, because the fact is now gives more time for the companies to protect themselves, so they are going to raise prices to protect themselves. So that's the second thing. Now, the third topic I want to go to, because I'm feeling the sniffles right now, so I'm not going to be on here too long, but I want to talk about a topic that was on my mind for quite a while, and I'll finally get around to it. The Switch 2 game key cards. Oh, the key cards. I've been hearing about this, and I'll say this. I invest in the Switch physical games a lot. A lot of games I buy, on Steam. Steam right now is just the digital version. But some of them, if they are good games and they are released on the Switch, I am buying the physical version on the Switch because if Steam one day removes the game from their Steam store, that means I don't have any way to play that game again unless I have a physical version. And I could buy the PS5 disc stuff, but I want something portable, which is why I buy Switch games, because they are portable. So if one day the game disappears, I still have the physical version to go back to. Now, with Switch 2, there are only a few games that are being listed as wholly on the physical cartridge. Cyberpunk 2077, that Ultimate Edition, that is great. A lot of the Marvelous games like the next Room Factory or the next Story of Story Seasons. The next Daemon X Machina is also going to be wholly on the physical game cartridge. However, there's a lot more that are going to be not going to be on the physical card as opposed to on it. Like again, we have Raidu Remastered. That's going to be a game key card. Street Fighter 6 is also going to be on a game key card, I've heard. I believe Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate is going to be on there as well. Madden will be on as a game key card. You have to download everything. I believe there's some other games I can't remember off the top of my head for some reason. Some of the other games that also are game key cards. So I think that's not Nintendo, or that's a third party. The few third party that I mentioned that are going to be on there. Everything else is going to be on a game key card. I also hear that probably some of the other games are going to be game key cards as well. So I'm trying to think of the names I can't remember off the top of my head right now. So unfortunately, what that means is that So how the game key card works is that you buy the game key card, you put it in your Switch 2, you have to download the entire game online onto your Switch, then you can play it, and then if you want to, and then you can, if you shut off the game, you want to replay it, you can't just play it as if it was a digital game. You have to insert the game key card to then be able to turn on the game. So to me, what that means is that's just has the same problems as a digital game. Now here's the thing: if the whole game's on the physical cartridge, you can take the game key card and put a different Switch, put another person's Switch, and you can still play the game. And you don't have to download anything. If the game goes away on the Switch eShop, you still have the whole game on the cartridge if the game is on the cartridge. With the game key card, if let's say you download the game, all of a sudden you need more space, you delete the game, and all of a sudden, let's say it's Street Fighter 6, for instance, who knows, maybe there's a patch that does something bad, or maybe that gets banned, or it gets forgotten, who knows what happens one day. And then all of a sudden, the game is taken down from the eShop. So now you put in the game key card, you want to play again, but however it says, we can't download the game. So now you're stuck with a game key card that's meant for Street Fighter 6, but you can't download the game, which means you can't play the game. Which means it's just the same as a digital game at that point. So, what's the point of the game key card? They say it's for collecting purposes? Why would you do that? Why would you collect a game key card that does nothing? If you give it to a friend, they can't play the game. They can't download either. So what's the point? Is it for the save money? Sure, they say it's they're saying that the game key card version, some are going to charge them the same price as the digital version. Still, what's the point? Why don't I just buy the digital version? Because if I buy the digital version down onto my memory stick, whatever the SD card, I can play that without having the cartridge in the cartridge slot. I can have a different game on the cartridge slot, play that, and then I can have the digital version of a game and play that without having to carry the game key card. So what's the benefit of the game key card then? Nothing. To me, this is why when I heard this idea, I'm like, this effing sucks. This is stupid. Why even bother producing this? Nintendo, you guys are worried about these tariffs and these hardware costs for a Switch, right? If you're gonna go all digital anyway, if this is gonna be it's gonna be down anyway, why don't you just go all digital and forget this and save money? And that way, maybe you could lower some of your prices. Your costs will be lowered then. Nintendo, did you ever think of that, Nintendo? You can always lower your your manufacturing costs by not producing these game key cards. There's no point. They serve they serve no real purpose. You can collect them, sure, but at the end of the day, they're just paperweights you can throw out, because if you throw it out, it's the same. And here's the thing. If I have a game key card and I download the version, now, if it's the same as a physical card, if I lose the game key card, I have to buy the digital version again anyway. So what's the point? I might as well pay for the digital version so you have a record of it, so if I lose the game or I delete the game, I can download that. I don't have to worry about finding the game key card because I can't download the game if I don't have the game key card. So having the game key card is useless. It's mind-boggling. Which is why when I decide to pre-order my games, I'm like, wow, this sucks. What? I might as well just buy the digital version. At this point, there's no rush for me to buy any of the games that were announced unless I really like the third-party games. Like, for instance, Elden Ring. Do I really care about game for Switch 2 now? No, because they told me it's gonna be a game key card. So at that point, I don't have to rush buying it because it's a game key card. There's no rush for me to buy it. It's not gonna be, even if it runs out of stock. It's not like I can just go into the Switch 2 eShop, and buy the digital version and download that way. It's the same thing. That's why I bought the Cyberpunk 2077 physical copy, because it's gonna be on the disc. I can play that wherever I want, and if, for instance, like Steam, for instance, I can't download, I can't play on. And here's the thing about Switch 2, if I'm not mistaken, you don't need to be connected online to play the games. if I have to do if for Steam I have to be connected to Steam to play a game to start it up again. Unless I switched it off on that game, I have to turn on the game while connected online. It's not like with the Switch, I don't have to. So that's why I want the physical version of these games, because then I don't have to deal with the problems that Steam Deck has or the problems of a game key card. So Nintendo, why are they doing this? There was a leak I heard of the stores of Arc System Works, the people of Guilty Gear, and I think BlazBlue probably, or they may be similar to the same studio, but they leaked out why it seems like a lot of companies are doing game key cards, because they don't want to pay for something else. There are only 3 options for releasing games on Switch 2 for many of these companies. 1, it's a digital only version. 2, 64 gigabyte key card. Or 3, the game key card. So there's only 3 versions, which and for the physical copy, there's only the 64 gigabyte version. There's nothing smaller like 8 gigabytes. There's not something smaller like 16 gigabytes. There's nothing smaller like 4 gigabytes. There's nothing smaller like 2 gigabytes. And I'm hearing from the discourses that because of manufacturing costs, they want to save on the memory for printing these out. Here's an idea, Nintendo. How about you don't just print all 64 game key cards, maybe print 2 or 3 SKUs, make some of the SKUs larger, do some budgeting for it, and then you can save some money. And then you can make everyone print physical game cards. And plus, though, they can charge more money for the physical version that way. There's real value to those cards, not like the game key cards that have no value at all. But no. So now, again, I will blame Nintendo for some things, but then I won't blame Nintendo for some things, but I will blame Nintendo for this. Can you not figure out the SKUs for 2 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes, 64 gigabytes? Even if it's not that many. Even 4, 16, and 64. Yeah, 4, 16, and 64. Is that so hard to do? Is that so hard to do? To make like 3 SKUs of cartridges for these developers to be able to print their games on. And then we can collect them. We don't have to worry about this game key card crap, this digital crap that disappears all of a sudden. Let's say people years from now play Switch 2, it's the same problem with the PS2, the Nintendo DS. You shut it down. If we don't have the physical copy, we will never get the game again. Do you not get it, Nintendo? There's no reason at all to do game key cards. And again, I work as a software engineer. We say memory is cheap. And I've seen all these SD cards. They get cheaper and cheaper as the days go on. It's not as bad as it used to be. So people, there's easy ways to get around this. There's easy way to budget for this, but you're not. Now this is where I agree with some of the discourse that Nintendo's being greedy here, and they're being stingy. They are being stingy here, because if they wanted to make more sales, you cannot do the game key cards, because I'll tell you this much right now. I'm not buying that many game key cards. Why would I? It's a waste of my money at that point. I might as well buy digital at that point. And even then, here's the thing now. Now that I know about this, who's to say I don't buy the Switch 2 version? I'm just going to buy a Switch 2 version of a couple games, see what they're like, and then play the game on my ROG Ally X again. See what the comparison is. And if I notice that the ROG Ally X or the Lenovo Legion Go 2, which is coming out a week before the Switch 2, if those play the games better, more smoothly than the Switch 2, then I don't even have to buy anything digital on Switch 2. All I would do is wait for a game that's fully physical or a Nintendo first-party exclusive and just focus on those games for Nintendo. And every other game will be on Steam at that point. You're walking a slippery slope, Nintendo, because a lot of people are seeing the prices go up, and also the fact that everything's on a game key card. And people are going to think, why should I bother buying the game key cards? You're wasting your money. And I'm hoping that people may even do this, what I'm doing. Don't buy the game key cards. Tell Nintendo that, what the F? I can just pay for your game digitally. So what's the point of buying the physical? And then everyone, I'm hoping, every game that's physical, buy the shit out of it, make it limited supply, make it limited stock, make the supply go disappear so they have to reprint them. Make them understand that we need games physical if you want to do this, Nintendo. Not game key cards. It's useless. Nintendo, get your ass in gear on this. But yeah, oh man, I'm feeling very exhausted. I had a long weekend. I actually have a flight for work. I have to do work stuff for the next few days outside my home, so I'm trying to fight this battle with my exhaustion and all that. But yeah, I just wanted to get my thoughts out there for this podcast because I've been holding in the game keycard thoughts in my head for a while, and I want to get some of that out. I have more, but unfortunately I'm not in that space right now to do it, so as you can see, I'm really tired right now, so... But yeah, thanks a lot for listening to me tonight. Again, I hope I could keep going on with this on Friday. I'll have a new topic. I'll think of some other stuff that I want to focus on. But for now, thank you again, everyone, thank you for those who are watching. I hope I can reach more people soon, and I'm going to work on some stuff in the background to do more with this podcasting. But yeah, that's it for tonight. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good night for you all. This is Tosa Fujinami, aka Tosa Senpai.